When it comes to topics about health, about sa ating kalusugan, every time na name-mention yung fruits, the first thing that comes to our mind is healthy ito. Pero alam nyo ba na fruits ay meron ding peligro, meron ding panganib yung pagkain ng prutas. Yes, it is natural. Yes, it is God-given. Yes, ito ay tumutubo ng hindi na processed. But sa totoo lang, eating fruits the way we are eating now, hindi na ito natural. Sobra na itong malayo sa kung ano yung natural na phase na kung saan ang fruits ay available. Fruits are naturally produkto yan ng nature. Pero the way we have fruits now, it is far from being natural. Gumagamit na ng mga GMOs, gumagamit na ng mga mass production na capacity wherein na yung fruits ngayon is available na 3 times a day, 7 days a week, the whole year round. Kahit pa yung mga prutas na hindi local o hindi normal na tumutubo sa ating lugar. By nature, nakakakain tayo ng prutas during their own natural harvest season only. At kailan yung harvest season na yon? Those harvest season is usually just one, maximum twice a year. But now, ano yung prutas na available sa atin? They are being harvested all year round because na-alter na nga yung mga DNA ng mga fruits na ito for them to be available kahit anong season and kahit seedless pa sila at nag-iiba na yung kanilang composition. One major composition of fruit is their natural sweet taste. They have their own natural sugar, the fructose and the glucose. Most fruits merong combination ng fructose and glucose. However, their natural content is hindi na pareho sa kung ano sila dati. Because right now, because of GMO, we are able to make fruits na sobrang tamis. Hindi na natural na tamis, and that is even our definition of what is a good fruit is. Kapag sinasabi nating masarap na prutas, ibig sabihin sobrang tamis nito. Kapag ito ay hindi masyadong matamis, we already label it as not a good fruit because our definition of good fruit is sweet. And bakit natin kailangan kontrolin yung ating pagkain ng prutas? And bakit natin sinasabi na even if the rest of the world, most other doctors, maybe all the doctors are telling you to eat fruits all day, every day, at bakit tayo nagsasalungat sa advice na yan? Because eating fruits can also be unhealthy. Of course, we have to put it into context. If you compare fruits with, say for example, isang gelato o isang ice cream, of course, real fruit is better. If you compare fruit to a milk chocolate, of course, mas okay yung prutas. If ikukumpara mo yung saging sa isang milk tea, mas okay yung saging. Kung ikukumpara mo yung isang mansanas o apple sa isang frap na punong-puno ng high fructose corn syrup, of course, mas healthy naman yung banana. However, there is a downside to that. If you are already successful sa inyong health journey and you are incorporating some fruits from time to time at wala naman kayong kahit anong health issues, then maybe you are doing well with it comes to your control and when it comes to your sources ng other foods, you have the right mindset. However, this video is especially made para sa mga taong nag-iisip na inaakala nila na yung pagkain ng prutas ay dapat unlimited, na walang danger, walang upper limit, walang cap yung pagkain ng prutas simply because we thought it is, yes, a very healthy food. But we have to look into the dangers of too much fructose intake and that can come from other sources, from processed foods. But if you are already avoiding processed foods, pero meron pa rin kayong dinaramdam na sakit, meron pa rin kayong fatty liver, meron pa rin kayong diabetes, meron pa rin kayong problems with overall weight, nagkakaroon kayo ng obesity, and also you also have metabolic syndrome, then maybe this is the time that you would like to question or at least look into, tingnan lang kung baka nasusobrahan yung pagkain nyo ng prutas because by research, noong unang panahon, yung maximum fruit intake natin or fructose intake natin on average is just about 20 grams of fructose in a day. 20 grams of fructose in a day, that is just equivalent to parang isang dalawang slices ng mansanas or 2 servings of mansanas or 2 servings of banana. But now, the way we are eating now, we are already consuming 80 to 100, sometimes up to 120 grams of fructose in a day. And these fructose are hidden in many of our foods. Hindi lang siya nasa mga syrup, yung mga sugar syrup na nilalagay sa mga shakes, sa mga processed drinks. Nandun din siya sa mga yogurt na karamihan binibili na mga nakapakete, the fruit juices of the children, yung mga baon nila sa school. Those fruit juice are actually loaded with artificial fructose, high fructose corn syrup, and even the cookies, the crackers, yung mga pastries na usually binibili, yung mga mamon, I think yung mga mamon na sobrang staple na ng mga bata ngayon, those are actually also loaded with fructose. And cumulative in a day, we are consuming way fructose than we normally did, and we are doing that whole year round at doon na lumalabas yung problema. In this journal, Fructose Metabolism and Metabolic Disease, nakikita na ang fructose ay sobrang directly related with metabolic syndrome. So for those who are having diabetes, having obesity, meron ng obesity or overweight, and meron na ring associated na mga sakit sa puso, that would include hypertension, nagkaroon ng atherosclerosis, merong pagbara sa kanilang ugat, and that can be a high risk for development of stroke, for the development of heart attacks, and this is directly related to fructose. That is why we have to look into our fructose intake. And I will share with you one item, one article when it comes to fructose para lang maitama natin. We can think of our mindset when it comes to fructose. So this one is a statue about 30,000 years ago na civilization. And this statue is a woman na hindi naturally looking for humans in the past, because this figure represents the presence of high fructose in the diet. And high fructose in the diet before is actually helpful sa ating survival, because when we eat a lot of fruits before during harvest season, ito yung nag-aalaw sa atin to make use of the extra fruits that we eat, the extra fructose that we eat, and convert it into fats. At yung taba na ito ay pwedeng makatulong sa atin to survive in times of famine. Sa mga panahon na wala ng harvest season, wala na ring hunting season, at sa mga panahon ng pag-aayuno or fasting. However, the problem that we have today is kumakain tayo ng fructose, nagko-consume tayo ng fructose and other foods, hindi lang isang beses sa isang taon, hindi lang isang season sa isang taon, but we are now consuming it all year round. So yung nangyayari, it's just piling up and piling up over time, leading to this figure na noon ay very rare sa mga ninuno natin, but now we are seeing this kind of figure already very, very normally. Halos everyday, isang paglabas mo lang sa inyong bahay, meron ka na nakikitang mapababae man o mapalalaki with this kind of figure. And I am not body shaming, but we are looking into the health attributes of this kind of physique, of this kind of figure, because this figure only shows that there's already problem when it comes to the metabolic health. And meron kami mga pasyente na ganito, and when I ask kung ano yung diet nila, some of our colleagues might instantly say na mahilig ka ba sa soft drinks, mahilig ka ba sa desserts, but to our surprise, yung sagot nila, hindi. They have not taken any desserts, sweets, and soft drinks for the longest time. Pero alam nyo ba kung ano yung parati nilang kinakain, hindi sila nauubusan? Saging, mangga, mansanas, and a lot more of these fruits, and they are consuming more than 10 servings in a day. One half banana or isang maliit na banana is already considered as 1 serving. So if you are consuming 5 big bananas, that is already considered as 10 serving portions. And that is just an easy one sitting sa karamihan. Yung watermelon is somewhat lower in glucose and fructose kasi nga matubig ito. But how much watermelon can you consume? If you are easily consuming isang buong watermelon na maliit, that is already equivalent to 1 kilo of watermelon, and that is already equivalent to 80 grams of net carbohydrates, or equivalent to 20 teaspoons of white sugar. Sugar, by the way, is made up of glucose and fructose. So, nasa 50-50 ito. But this is also the reason why hindi lang basta sugar yung kailangan nating avoid. When I say na we have to limit or be conscious sa ating fruit consumption, it is already a given na you already avoid the sugar. It's useless kung kumakain ka ng hindi ka kumakain ng prutas, pero sobra-sobra pa rin yung pagkain mo o pag-consume mo ng mga pagkain matataas sa asukal. And this one is an example of the contents of sugar in every fruit. So, per cup or per serving ng isang cup ng mga prutas ay iba-iba yung kanilang fructose component. So, fructose, that is what we are emphasizing in this episode today. Pero, we have to look into the total amount of net carbohydrates na nasa prutas. So, hindi lang basta fructose, because it will also have glucose and it will also have starch. So, starch is still carbohydrates na madaling mai-convert into glucose. So, this one per box nito is equivalent to 5 grams of sugar or isang teaspoon, isang kutsarita ng sugar. So, blackberries and strawberries have the lowest amount of sugar in them. So, pero kahit pa low sila, but it's still 7 grams. So, that is still equivalent to about 1 teaspoon, so 7 grams of sugar, or nasa 1.5 teaspoon of sugar. And for the apples, 13 grams. So, isang cup ng apple na na-slice, that will already give you about 2.5 teaspoons of sugar. Yung pineapple, mataas din, nasa 16. So, that's already more than 3 teaspoons worth of white sugar. Yung orange will also have 3.5 teaspoons of white sugar. And then, for banana, okay? So, yung isang banana, isang saging, isang cup ng saging will already give you 18 grams of white sugar equivalent, or nasa mga 3.5 to 4 teaspoons of white sugar. At isa sa pinakamataas na sugar component, sugar content, would be grapes, na parati lang nating pinapapak noon unmindfully. Tingnan mo, 2 lang kayo o 3 lang kayo, 1 kilo na agad yung naubos ninyo. And this one is already too much sugar na hindi natin kailangan, especially that grapes is very not natural in our setting. Nag-i-import pa tayo and we are consuming them all year round as if it is locally produced. And this will already lead you into having problems because of too much fructose. And don't worry, if you really wish to eat fruits, kung gusto mo talagang kumain ng fruits, meron namang paraan that you can still enjoy fruits. But you have to consider the 3 steps that we will talk about in a little while para hindi nyo ito ma-overconsume at hindi kayo magkaroon ng mga scenarios wherein you are already eating fruits the wrong way. So, this is also another graph showing kung gaano na lumaganap yung consumption ng fructose sa ating modern times, na nung 1960s, 1970s, sobrang konti lang yung ating fructose na consumption because hindi pa na-invento yung high fructose corn syrup, and the high fructose corn syrup naging mas prevalent, and this one is increasing our total fructose consumption. So noon, mataas na nga yung ang ating fructose consumption from fruits would be somewhat controlled. So okay lang, pero the addition of high fructose corn syrup really affected and increased the prevalence of obesity and the presence of other metabolic diseases na kasama to. So in this graph, we can say na fruits is somewhat can be eaten. That's why hindi forbidden yung fruits sa ating save list. But it is in the caution list. Nasa caution list siya because we can eat fruits, but we have to be very mindful about it. And if we want to avoid fructose, we have to first avoid the fructose that is coming from high fructose corn syrup. Ito yung HFCS. And that is embedded in the processed foods na pinagkakain natin sa mga cereals, sa mga fruit juices, sa mga drinks, sa mga baon na usually nakapakete na binibigay sa mga bata ngayon. And that will cause a lot of problem, especially if you consume this in addition with many others. So, how much fruits can I eat in a day? So 20 grams of fructose per day, if that's what you want, is about 4.5 teaspoons or 2 apples. 4.5 teaspoons of sugar equivalent or 2 apples. So, and this one, when it comes to low carb, meaning kung kakainin nyo yan, you are already adding that up as part of your daily carbohydrate allowance. But if you are also consuming fruits and vegetables, especially yung mga vegetables din na nasa caution list natin, pwede nyo pa rin ma-overconsume yung total carbohydrates that you are eating in a day. And for this is the reason why sa mga taong hindi pa completely healed, nagsa-struggle pa rin to control their blood sugar, gusto pa rin mag-lose ng weight, gusto pang mai-control yung kanilang fatty liver, yung damage sa kanilang liver ay mai-control, and to reverse their fatty liver into normal, then maybe pwede munang magkaroon ng break from fruits. And then later on, once you are already at the top of your health, pwede naman, you can incorporate fruits, especially if you get to have the knowledge kung ano yung mga prutas that are somewhat mas madaling mai-incorporate sa ating low-carb lifestyle. And forbidden fruits, usually ito yung mga pinakamataas at ito ay nakakapagpataas ng ating fat sa katawan, and it can lead into weight gain because fruits will have a lot of fructose na pwede nyo magamit as energy, but if you are also eating so much of it, tataas din yung inyong glucose, and the moment you eat a lot of fruits with high glucose and high fructose, it will increase your insulin in the body, tataas yung insulin level mo sa katawan, at kapag tumaas yung insulin level mo sa katawan, this will now stop whatever fat burning process na nangyayari sa katawan nyo, and you will be on a fat storing mode. Bakit signal sa katawan natin ng fruits ay fat storage? Because nga, again, by nature, by evolution, sanay yung katawan natin na nakakain tayo ng fruits only during harvest season. So it goes into a mode of fat saving, fat storing. Nag-iimbak siya ng taba upang ito ay mabuhay, makasurvive sa panahon na wala ng prutas, wala ng harvest, wala na ring successful hunting, walang makain. Sa panahon na there's famine, na walang pagkain, your body, our ancestors have survived that time because they have stored fats. But if you are going to eat fruits all day, every day, 3 times a day, all year round, then you are not providing the adequate signal sa inyong katawan to burn those extra na naiimbak natin. That's why we have to look at it very closely so that hindi tayo bumalik sa ganitong state. Huwag natin sayangin yung sacrifices and the discoveries and how our ancestors survived dahil lang tayo ay naging biktima ng ating sariling own inventions, own modernizations when it comes to food intake. And now, we will now tackle the 3 scenarios when eating fruits is unhealthy. At kapag na-avoid natin ang 3 scenario na ito, then you can now adjust, and if you want to still include fruits in your day-to-day life, you can do so. But as long as you avoid these 3 scenarios. So the first scenario na nagiging masama yung pagkain ng prutas is when you eat in large quantity and together with other carbohydrates. Anong ibig sabihin nito? You are already eating isang saging and then meron ka pang banana Q sa hapon, and then kumakain ka pa ng apple kasi naniniwala ka na an apple a day keeps the doctor away. However, you are eating this. This is already like kung meron ka ng banana Q na coated with sugar, meron ka pang isang saging, and then meron ka pang mansanas. This is actually already about 60 grams of fructose and glucose. And in addition, of course, kung meron pang sugar na nakalagay sa inyong banana Q. And if you eat this, and then you also eat rice 3 times a day, so per rice, nasa 45 grams of net carbs yan. So tatlong rice, lagay na natin 120. So that's already 120 net carbs of rice, and that is already equivalent to what? Nasa ano na yan? Nasa 30 teaspoons of white sugar plus the 60 net carbs na nasa prutas. Then you are already consuming way too much carbohydrates, way too much fructose, way too much glucose, and that can lead into spike in your insulin, and then fat storage will happen, fat burning, yung pagtunaw ng taba ay mawawala din, and your body will just pile up on that. Others are very fast metabolizers. They don't get fats. Hindi sila lumalaki, hindi sila tumataba na obvious. But what they have is the inflammation na pwede pa rin mangyari because of overconsumption. Because kapag parati tayong naka-fuel on glucose lang, kapag yun lang yung source of energy na tinatap natin, it can generate free radicals. Hindi kasi natural for us, again, to always just depend on glucose. Hindi sanay yung katawan natin. Kahit pa sanay tayo sa buong buhay natin ngayon, in this lifetime, na glucose yung ginagamit nating energy, na carbohydrates, tinapay, rice yung ginagamit nating energy. However, yung katawan natin, yung DNA natin, yung basic biochemistry natin as humans, hindi sanay na ito yung ginagamit nating energy because our life cycle before is a combination of feasting, kumakain ng maramihan, and then there's also time of fasting. But now, we are always feasting, and that is no longer good for us. So, one wrong scenario na pwedeng makapag-endanger ng fruit intake is if you are eating too much of these fruits and together with other carbohydrates. And those carbohydrates usually is our main meal. Yung rice sa ating pagkain, yung spaghetti, yung noodles, yung tinapay, yung pandesal. Those are other carbs that will add to the burden sa ating katawan. So, scenario number 2 is when you eat fruits together with fatty foods, because fructose, hindi naman, although sinasabi natin parati no, that fructose can easily be converted into fats. However, hindi naman siya ganun kabilis because fructose can also be burned as energy, and then yung iba nagiging glucose din ito. But if you are eating this and then together with fatty foods, these fatty foods that you are eating will no longer be burned. Hindi siya magagamit as energy because yung katawan nga natin will first prioritize the carbohydrates. Uunahin muna niyang i-consume yung carbohydrates. And kahit pa wala na yung carbohydrates sa system mo, say for example, nag-breakfast ka, meron kang kinain na fruits, meron kang kinain na tinapay, and then kumain ka pa ng kanin, and then may ulam ka ng itlog, at saka meron ka rin kinain na pork chop, your body will consume first the bread, yung tinapay, yung kanin, and then yung fruit na kinain mo. Pagkatapos niyan, actually, akala natin ang next niya i-consume din niya yung itlog at saka pork chop na kinain mo. Pero yung totoo, the glucose na nandyan sa carbs, mawawala man sila, pero yung insulin na epekto ng glucose na ito, mananatili sa katawan. And as long as the insulin is there, hindi niya muna i-activate yung fat burning process sa ating katawan. So yung mangyayari, yung nakain nating proteins and fats, only a little part of those will be burned as energy. Majority of them will just be stored. Sila yung magiging stored. So, what will happen is after 2 or 3 hours, gutom ka na naman. Gutom ka na naman because you are trying to maintain your glucose level na para ito ang gagamitin mong energy. Because our body, when it is used to using glucose as energy, it can take 12 to 18 hours before it can shift, before siya mag-shift into fats as a source of energy. So that's why we recommend timing your food intake na hindi ito unlimited. And yes, if you eat fruits, sobrang dami ng fruits, and then you eat so much fats also, this is not the best way to do it because you are not going to maximize those fats. Yung taba na kinakain ninyo will just be stored there at most likely hindi ito magagamit as energy sa inyong katawan because your body will just be dependent on fructose or glucose or carbohydrates as a main source of energy. So to recap, it is a no-no kung kumakain kayo ng prutas in large quantities with other high carbs. Secondly, if you eat them together with fatty foods. And lastly, if you eat them very frequently, sobrang frequent, almost every day, 3 times a day, or sometimes 5 times a day, or kung nag-midnight snacks pa kayo ng fruits, then that is already too much. And also, if you are doing it without fasting, even a little fasting is already good as compared to no fasting at all because sabi nga natin, when it comes to fruit intake, fruit consumption signals our body na ito ay harvest season. So when we provide a signal na harvest season sa ating katawan, then we should also provide a season na kung saan ito na naman ay fasting season or non-harvest season so that there could be a good balance and a good modulation ng fat burning, fat storing, anabolism, and catabolism to maintain homeostasis, yung pinaka-sweet spot of health and balance sa ating katawan. So that is why if you are still starting this way of life and you are considering change in your lifestyle, you can think of going into low carb. And if you are already avoiding the processed foods, you are already avoiding the foods na alam nating mga junk foods, but you are still not seeing na you are at the top of your health, then maybe this is the time that you can look into our caution list. So marami yung nasa caution list, the foods that we thought are all safe and healthy, but the presence of fruits there only signifies that these things, though natural, though can be part of a healthy diet, pero hindi ito pwedeng kainin in unlimited amount, in unmindless manner. Okay? Dapat cautious tayo whenever we eat because there is no such thing as safe, especially if it is too much. And sadly, our definition of too much is very relative. Akala natin hindi pa ito sobra, pero when it comes to our biology, when it comes to our biochemistry as modern humans, the way we are eating now, the way we are raised, it is actually already too much. Even the fact that we eat 3 times a day in a day, it's already too much. If we want to live longer, healthier, more vigorous life, then we can start by improving our way of eating. If you wish to know more, we have a masterclass for that. And you are also free to join our Facebook groups, Life Without Rice and Low Carb Feasting and Fasting Community for inspirations and success stories ng sobrang dami na. In hundreds of thousands already healed on their own, na-inspire ng kaibigan, na-inspire ng kapatid, or naging silent reader lamang sa ating groups. And if you are one of those, I encourage you to write your own story, to write your own journey sa comments, and share this video also, and tell them your own testimony how low carb nutrition and fasting helped you in this way of life. I'm Dr. Josephine Gracie Rojo. I'm a specialist of the diseases of ears, nose, throat, subspecializing in facial plastic surgery, but my heart speaks for nutrition and natural health. That is why we have a low carb and fasting masterclass ongoing for specific diseases, including but not limited to diabetes, hypertension, fatty liver, GERD, obesity, and many more. Sobrang dami na po. So we hope to see you there, and thank you to each and everyone. Shout out to all our coaches and to all of our participants, all of our enrollees in our LCF Masterclass for enabling us to do what we do. We are forever grateful, and I hope to see you in our upcoming meet and greet this coming March 27. I'll see you then po. And for those who wish to know more, message nyo lang yung admins natin so that you can be a part of our low carb and fasting masterclass na kung saan we have a weekly Q&A live interactive sessions with our group, and this will be ongoing until the full masterclass is finished. So for those who are part of the group right now, know that you are very, very fortunate that we get to be this intimate and we get to discuss your own concern in our group, at para lahat ng ating participants can also learn from your own struggles, from your own concerns, and hopefully everybody will get better in no time. So maraming salamat po everyone. I'll see you again in our next video, and remember to always stay low carb so that we all stay safe. Bye!